Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Capes and Lunatics. I am Phil. Lilith may be along shortly, but I'm here to talk tonight, talking to some returning guests, Mr. Jackson Lanzing and Mr. Collin Kelly. Hello, gentlemen.
Hey,
howdy.
Hey,
Thanks
for having us back, Phil.
Yes, I mean, we've been talking about it for a while to have you two back, but I know the thing that really hit me in Lilith's sweet spot that we're like, we have to talk to them was Venom War Spider-Man.
Oh, nice.
Right
Awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I figured I'd like it, but we both enjoyed it immensely, and we're just like, this is great.
Thank you. It was such a joy to get to do. It's one of those things you never count on. Peter Parker getting to find his way onto your bingo card. He's such a iconic and incredible character, but one of those guys that we've really had very little time writing.
Well, this is the third time that we've had an opportunity to write him, but only previously it was just a little cameo in the Thor annual we did, and then we did a story about a tangent of Peter in Spider-Verse.
Right, in Edge of Spider-Verse.
When we wrote Weapon 8. But when the opportunity dropped into our lap from Jordan White, we were like, wait a minute, Black Peter and the black suit? Okay, let's go, man.
Yeah, it seemed like too good an opportunity to pass up. Truthfully, I don't think we've ever said this before. Like, truthfully, we should not have taken like just on a purely like schedule level, we shouldn't have taken the job. We were so busy when we were writing that book that we were like, can we fit a script into the schedule? We said, no, we can't. But it's Peter Parker in the black suit. Like we have to take this. Like this is, who knows when that opportunity is ever going to come around again. And it's, we love writing best friends. So for us, it was such a great opportunity to take a theme that we love writing and that is very true to life for us about companionship and bonding and how friendship works and how male intimacy works and like how to talk about that and then bring that through this character who has such a, who every time we've gotten to write him, the voice has just flowed so naturally and felt so on target. So I don't know, man. We really, I'm so happy people like it. You never know when you're writing an event book if anybody's gonna even encounter it, especially when the event's by Al. Like, he's an incredible writer. So it always felt like best case scenario, you're playing kind of second fiddle to this incredible wild Al book. But it's been really nice. We've had a lot of Spider-Man fans reach out and tell us how much they've enjoyed it, or when they're not, telling us about Paul. And it's good.
That's what I was gonna bring up, the Paul thing. Yeah, I know. I thought people weren't happy about that. I mean, I love the marriage too, but it's like you kind of have to go with what the Amazing Spider-Man book gives you. You know. As with anything, with any big franchise, Spider-Man or Batman or anything, it's like you have to go with what the main book gives you.
Yeah, and Zeb is in the middle of a like legendary run on this.
Zeb is doing a thing. Let the man cook.
Yeah, Zeb's doing a thing. He's been doing a thing for a long time. He's nearing his landing zone on it. Like the last thing that we can do is get in there on the landing zone and muck with it. Like that's really not an appropriate thing for us to do because we are coming in as guests on this character and trying to tell a cool story that doesn't become so crucial for what Zeb's doing that Zeb should have done it. And he's a friend, like. We all live in LA. We know Zeb. Like, we hang out at shows. We share a rickshaw at Comic-Con. Like that guy and us are. If we screw with his stuff, he'll know. He can find us. Yeah. His assistant is good friends with me. So I was like, we're not here to like try to like muck around. Instead, what we really thought was cool was it was a great opportunity to take what Zeb was building with Paul and MJ, which has been so divisive in the fan base and been such and so hard for Peter, and turn that up to 11 because Venom doesn't know any of it. Because Venom can roll into that and be like, can effectively be a voice for that quote unquote fan that comes in and is like, wait, somebody took your girlfriend?
Wait a
like,
minute. Peter,
come on, Peter.
What a dork.
What's going on? And like that was, I thought, really lovely because it meant that Peter had to be in the position of defending Paul and MJ, a thing he doesn't really like to do and probably doesn't want to be doing. But to be a good person, to be a responsible person, he has to be because I think the genius of Paul and the genius of what Zeb is doing is that Peter Parker is exactly the kind of character who would understand how toxic a behavior it would be for him to continue to pursue MJ despite her choices. That like, because she has made choices and he has chosen to respect MJ's choices. And so as a result, that puts him in a really sad, put upon, very Spider-Man position, which is great.
Right. That's the best thing about Spider-Man.
That's exactly where Spider-Man should be.
Oh, yeah.
Parker should be sad.
Yeah. I mean, it's unfortunate, but it is kind of true.
Yes. I mean, that's the tightrope you guys are walking too. It's like you kind of have to honor what Zeb's doing, and then Al's writing the book on Venom War, so it's like you kind of have to walk two lines there. So
we're not the bosses here.
Yeah, but
in the best case scenario, we're the Ringo here, right? Like, and that's fine. There are places where we're not, right? Like on Star Trek, we get to be John and Paul. Like that's fine.
We can't even be George.
We'll be George. We'll be George on this one.
Considering how weird issue 3 gets, and I genuinely do not even know what issue is out so far. Two just came out.
Yeah,
so when issue 3 hits and when issue 3 does land, that was really the whole ball game for us. Like, yes, Peter is rad. Venom, love that dirty boy. But when we latched onto the idea of what we could do for issue 3, that was the hook. That was like, well, this is a story that can only be told once. It can only be told right now. And the fact that we get the chance to do it was too good to pass up. And I think because of issue 3, we get to be the George.
I think that's true. Well, and it's interesting because of that, because of things in issue 3, I think the other reason why I think maybe the George thing is relevant, there are beats in 3 that actually changed the way that Al was writing the event. There's some writing in 3 that Al lifted and is in Al's book.
Oh wow.
So you'll read Al's book and you'll read some stuff that Collin and I wrote. And that's like, it's a huge compliment for us to be like, oh, like you actually changed your thematic because you read issue 3 and went, oh, that's cool, I can use that. Like it's not like we're just drumming in the background. He heard us play sitar and was like, oh, let's put some sitar on the track, which was very cool.
Yeah.
Like and you know, Al is he's a writer we really, really admire. Like you could put you put a board of like our modern influences out there, like Al's extremely high on it. So it's been a real honor to get to come in and write this particular part of this event for him. And then to have him turn around and say like, oh, I like this bit of it. Let's graduate that to the main book and make sure that it echoes. That was really beautiful.
Well, yeah, that's what I was going to ask you, because it seems like this book is the most closely tied to the tie-ins to the main book. So I was going to say, do you know all of Al's secrets? But it seems like there's a free flow of ideas back and forth. So are you like, okay, here's what we're doing in 3, and he's like, oh, I like that.
So you know how the X Office worked under Jordan White? They had the Slack channel, right, that everybody was on, where everything was shared.
Oh, okay, yeah.
All the X writers were slacking. There's a Venom Slack. So we're all on a Venom Slack. Like if I need to ask Al a question, Al's right there. Every script that comes out from any of them. So when Erica finishes a script, or Tim Seeley finishes a script, or Simon Prasada finishes a script, like those all go into the Slack and we all read each other's scripts. Like we know, similar to what's going on in the X Office for us, right? Like we're in with Gail and Jed and all of them on the X Discord. There's a Slack for Venom War that allows us all. It's called Simba Wrote. And it's very good for exactly this.
Nice. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna ask you a question. You're probably gonna be like, oh, we couldn't answer that even if we knew an answer. So is this series kind of, do you think it's a test run to say, hey, you know, this Peter Parker could use a symbiote again on a somewhat permanent, again, nothing in comics is permanent, but on a somewhat permanent basis?
Zero comment.
You know we can't answer that, my guy.
Yeah,
good
zero
try,
comment.
Good try, but we're just gonna dance right on past that one.
Okay.
I will say, I think what is cool about this book is that if it is the last run for Peter in the suit, that's what we're treating it like. Like, sort of to answer your question by like flipping it, right? When we approached this, it was very much with the understanding that if he does, you know, again, depending on how Venom War ends, which when we started it, we weren't even entirely aware of.
Oh, wow.
When we know, you know, we know that at the end of the day, this could be the last time these two guys are in the same body, effectively. Like, this is the only time that we know that Venom is going to be on Peter and Peter is going to be wearing Venom. So this seems like a really exciting opportunity to write that as if it was the last time that those two guys were to meet. And that's why the book is kind of, it's why it's in 4 parts. And it's why issue 3 is what issue 3 is. We've sort of danced around it, but it is solicited. So,
yeah, I think we can say what it is.
And it's on the cover, so I think it's relatively clear. Do you want to
yes.
push it? It's like 5 words.
Issue 3, Peter Parker, King in Black.
Oh, yes. I did see that. Yes.
So given that, it felt like a really good opportunity for us to say, okay, if we're going to take you all the way to the extreme of like what it would be like for Peter to become the King in Black.
Mm-hmm.
We also really need to look at like what it's like for Peter and the suit to evaluate their relationship and what it means. So each issue is called We Are Something. So it's like issue 1 is We Are Brothers.
Mm-hmm.
It's very much about these two guys reuniting and realizing like, oh, we really are good together. We're actually like really good.
We've both done a lot of like growing.
Yeah. And now we're like working together really, really well. The second one is called We Are in Love. Not in love with one another, but in love with Mary Jane. Though, you know, they're kind of in love with each other. But the idea here being that like it's really evaluating like what is romance for Peter and what is romance for Venom.
And what's it mean to be bonded to someone?
Right. And then what does it mean and what does it mean for your friend to not understand your relationship where you do, right? So there's like that. Then there's We Are Kings, which is issue 3, which is all about dissecting like, okay, at the very, very height of our power, what are we?
What does it mean to have that much power with that much responsibility?
Yeah.
And what does it do to Peter Parker?
And then 4 is called We Are Venom. Because it is very much about what it means to now evaluating all of this. Are these good things? Are these bad things? Is this a good relationship? Is this a toxic relationship? Like, what is this friendship? Oh, my cat has decided that she's going to be a part of the. What that was for anybody listening and like, oh, I hear a cat. Yes,
they got Venom Horse. We are bringing in Venom Cat.
Yes.
I guess we have Talks Sleeper.
Yeah.
Who is the best boy? Let's be clear.
Oh, and on behalf of my whole team, I would like to thank you for putting our favorite punching bag for Spider-Man in this story, the Hobgoblin. Thank you very much.
Happily.
Yeah.
Honestly, seemed like a great opportunity, not only because he is an excellent punching bag, and because Zeb has been using him a bit, but also because he is actually one of the primary villains of Black Suit Spider-Man. Like for Spider-Man during the period where he got the Black Suit, Hobgoblin was like ascendant as a character.
Oh, so, yeah, that whole mystery was good. Yeah.
So it was a nice way to just be like, oh, these guys are already on the same page. They already know what a Hobgoblin is.
Plus, I still remember being like, I don't know, being like, what, 12 or 13 or whatever, and cracking open a pack of cards and picking up, who the hell is that? I know Green Goblin. Right, like, what the hell's going on, guys? So it was just a really cool first full circle moment to be like, this is one of the original Peter Parker stories that I fell in love with. These are some of the characters that really kind of started that journey. It was cool to come full circle. Plus, Roderick, a fashion designer all about suits, really felt, sympathetic about.
Not that we got to play that thematic a lot, but it did feel thematic.
In my head, he's being very critical of the couture.
Black's always in style, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, everyone always looks good in black.
I was gonna say, I think we should. I don't know if I should ask you about some of your other books. You know what else I've been loving? Outsiders.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Very different book.
I'm just like, I don't know. You know what? I'm enjoying it, but every issue I crack it open and I'm like, I don't know if I'm smart enough to be reading this.
Yeah.
You are.
Okay.
You are. Everybody is. I think when issue 11 is done, I hope it's readily apparent that all of the ideas stuff in that book is really just to get you to an emotional place. Like, I think I think the goal is not to land a big intellectual framework. The goal is to move you. That's always what we're trying to do. We're never really trying to I think it would be pretentious for us to come in and be like, we're trying to communicate ideas. Like, most of the ideas in Outsiders are ideas from thinkers who came before us. They're ideas from Grant Morrison. They're ideas from, to some degree, Warren Ellis. And then in large part, they're ideas from the writers who have run the DC universe over the past several decades. And it's really a chance for us to take all of those ideas in, toss them in a bit of a blender, and try to see them from the outside using Drummer. Anybody who's not reading Outsiders but has read Planetary, you should flee this interview right now.
Pause this interview
because
go read
Planetary and then go read Outsiders
and then come back.
Okay, we gave you time.
Back.
Yeah, welcome back. You did it. I hope you enjoyed Outsiders. So obviously we take a character from Planetary who hasn't been touched since Planetary, because none of those characters have been touched since Planetary. This character Chiquita Wagner, and say, okay, Chiquita's the baseline of our pitch is like, if Chiquita's immune to everything, she's immune to universal reboots. So that means she would encounter the DC universe the way that a reader encounters the DC universe, which is to say, every few years, everything you know gets kind of like tossed over your shoulder, and a new thing emerges that, so we can have all new number ones. And as a reader, I have found that alternately really frustrating and really cool. As a writer, I found that really frustrating and really cool. And so we felt like we wanted to write about the ways in which that would be frustrating or cool as a person inside of it.
Well, and almost directly to your point, once you start picking it apart, it's a cerebral argument, right? Yeah. All these, what happens to, how often have we all picked through the back issues and tried to riddle out, okay, well, if this crisis happened, then this Superman went, and it's like, right, it's the conspiracy board. And yes, we love that kind of shit, but ultimately it doesn't mean anything without the emotional impact. And right now, Chiquita, Drummer, is conspiracy boarding, right? This has to make sense. This has to make sense. But I think the answer that we're all going to find is that it is not about making sense. It is about feeling that kind of closure. It is about the emotional connections that you are making and the feelings that these stories bring you, not the meticulous interwoven, right? Like, put your fucking Poindexters down and start feeling these stories and stop getting hung up on the kind of reboot nature of all of this stuff, because it's these characters and it's the feelings that you're going to walk away with that matters.
But I mean, I think that's a really hard argument to make to a archaeologist, which is what she is, right? Like, she is. I'm not the first person to do this by any stretch, but I remember when Colin and I first met in college, and we would go to the comic book store and we'd pick up our comics and stuff. The metaphor I always used to use for reading comics was like, it felt like I was getting to become a historian for like a fictional universe. Every time you go in, you're learning new history, and then that history cements itself in the bedrock, and then you're like, well, that happened, so that's the history, and that's like locked in stone. This is a literal historian.
Yeah.
A literal world that keeps getting literally rewritten. And so what that meant for her, how maddening that would become, and how much all of it would stop mattering. Again, getting to
we all get reboots.
A constant complex that people talk about with reboots. It's like, oh, well, nothing matters, so why do I care? And it's like, well, that's not mattering. Isn't the point? Like,
right.
Like,
it's not the history that matters.
Yeah. Like, I was wrong. You're not a historian of a fictional universe. You're a reader getting stories. And those stories lodge themselves in your heart and your brain and your gut and your morals, and they make you feel things, and they make you behave in certain ways, and they help you live your life in certain ways, and that those things are the value you actually get out of it. So that's just me agreeing with
But it's not a cerebral book.
Fuck! Damn it!
Well, no, just say it's not your typical superhero story. You know,
that it is not.
Considering that it started as Ben Abernathy sitting us down and saying, "What would you guys do with Luke Fox and Kate Kane? What if they teamed up? What would you do with it?" Then we've ended up here. Like, yeah, I'd say it's a pretty wild, not your typical superhero book. But once again, it's been incredible that we got to do it.
We're so thankful.
Yeah, it's been a really rad experience, and it's been a really cool opportunity, especially considering it's backing up right against this kind of universal reboot.
Yeah, it's kind of incredible that it ended up actually lining up directly with Absolute Power and with all of this stuff that they're handling there, which like obviously isn't like a full-on reboot, but has its own like universal cracking ramifications and all the stuff that they're doing. I just realized I could make a pun with Ram's name. Oh no. But ramifications. Sorry,
The
it's good.
ramifications.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah,
It's good.
That's good.
Anyway, but the fun thing.
That's the name of our Ramv fan podcast.
Our Ramv fan podcast is called Ramification. Oh, it's good. I'll pitch this to him next time we see him. But I think the thing that I do want to sort of say on the outsider side of it, if because we're only going to have a couple of interviews where we get to talk about this before it happens, right? So you get me talking about this for a second, which is that so Outsiders 11, which is the last issue of the book, right? It was always planned to be 12, and then because of the way that scheduling worked out, there was supposed to be an issue between 10 and 11, and we just took the issue out, or issue 10 and 12. We just took the issue out. It didn't need to be there. It was kind of a style exercise, and it would have been cool, but we didn't need it. So because of the way scheduling worked out, because they wanted to end the book before they dropped their entire new line, which makes a lot of sense, we were like, okay, we'll just cut that issue and move to 11. And they gave us more pages on 11 to make up for it, so it was great. So as we did issue 11, without spoiling the plot of issue 11, at the end of issue 10, Chiquita destroys the universe. So we had to sort of figure out like what issue 11, how we're going to put it all back together in some respect, because that's what issue 11 inevitably has to be. And in doing that, it meant reflecting a lot on Planetary, which is obviously the point of the book in terms of like not just the way that these stories stick around in terms of fiction, but the way they stick around in your heart and the way their creators become a part of you and the way you think about them, the way that they hold on. And then at the beginning of this month, the artist and co-creator of Planetary, John Cassaday, passed away quite suddenly, which was a huge blow to us as lifelong fans of his. I think he's
when you're talking about us going together and meeting in the comic book shop to go become historians, his books were what we were mainlining.
I think he's my favorite artist of all time.
Yeah.
Oh,
like it's him and Mike Mignola. Like I think they're just my absolute fans. And I knew John, like not really well, but like I've hung out with him a few times, and he drew the cover for Outsiders. It was a brutal loss. It was really, it's very sad. But also issue 11 now acts very unintentionally as a eulogy from us a little bit in terms of like what his work meant to us and how it has moved forward and how we, with our enormous hubris, thought we could come in and play with this classic piece of work and talk about what it meant to us and talk about how its creation meant something to us. And to have that in a book where, I mean, he drew himself as drummer. So like quite literally the figure of John Cassaday is in our book. Like the likeness is in our book, was a really, now is a very surreal thing. And then it was written and released and like went to print before his passing. Wow. So it's not like we could then take the book and go, okay, how can we really make sure that this feels like, no, we had no idea.
It's pretty wild that it's exactly as we envisioned the book, and it's just really transformed in terms of its impact.
I hope its meaning is distinct.
Yeah.
But it's a weird double-edged sword of like, I'm incredibly sad for John's loss, and incredibly sad for all of us and the comics industry at large to have lost that talent, and for his family, obviously, and for his friends, and for like the wider context. But it's also really, it's a bizarre creative experience to be like, and then we also have this book that's about him, kind of, that's coming out the month he passes. And I hope that it acts as a frame for mourning for other people too, in the same way that the book acted as a frame of mourning for us. I hope it's useful. I hope it is not a tread on him, but is rather becomes useful to those who are out there who are mourning him like we are, and can find a way to get something out of it. So it's strange to take a 30-page superhero comic and put that kind of weight on it.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to acknowledge, because otherwise it's going to seem really roughshod for us to have just like rolled in on this month with this book.
Yeah.
I assume they're going to collect your Outsiders run. Would it be possible? Would they let you write like some kind of like intro or something for a collection and like just talk about John Cassaday?
I hope so.
God, that'd be amazing.
I hope so. We'll see. I know the first trade is in progress. DC's trade program takes a little bit, so
yeah.
We'll see how it all sorts out. But I'll write something on socials day of. Like I'm going to put out a bit of a statement to try to be like, just for anybody who wants context on this, here's what's going on. But I think it was, yeah. I mean, rest in peace, John. Like genuinely, in my opinion, the best to ever do it.
All right, and what else should we get to? NYX.
Yeah.
Our far more lighthearted child.
Yeah, talk about mourning. It's our very positive funeral for Krakoa.
Right, actually, also mourning for Krakoa. The wake of Krakoa is kind of how we like to think of it.
Yeah.
But a real return to our kind of youthful joyride pop punk roots. Once again, the things that we were kind of bonding over back in those comic shops were New X-Men and Young Avengers. Runaways, right? All these stories about young people who've been really displaced from the world and getting the opportunity to circle back around on that in this brand new age of X-Men. I mean, once again, just like Spider-Man in the black suit, when you get the chance, you got to go to bat, right?
Oh, yeah. Definitely X-Men. Oh, yeah. And like basically starting on like a fresh, like new, take it, the pre-Krakoa and stuff. And when there's always multiple X books. So it's like, do people fight over who gets who in whose book, or
no
decided beforehand for you?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's like okay. So the beautiful thing about the X Office is that X Office editorial is handled by Tom Brevoort, who's, I mean,
best who ever did it.
Yeah, like just like I was saying about John. Like, I mean, he's the best to ever do it. Like, he is so good at this. He's been doing it longer than any person alive. He has a not X-Men specifically, right? Avengers, but Marvel Comics specifically, right? And he has been doing a brilliant job. Like we were raised effectively and fell in love with the Marvel Universe during his tenure on Avengers. So,
and we were his first. Our second book, our first ongoing at Marvel, Captain America.
Yes.
He was editing kind of along with Alana Smith.
He edited Kang.
And you don't know notes until you get Tom notes.
Yeah.
He doesn't care about your feelings, particularly at all. But like, you don't need it. It's like welcome to the big boys table. Like, pull up your pants and get ready for a war. They're not mean at all.
And he will not give you a note unless he needs to give you a note.
Yep.
Oh.
Otherwise, he'll just not say anything.
Yep.
And occasionally, very occasionally, Tom will tell you that something is good. And when he says that something is good, you like want to like throw a fireworks show.
Yeah, you fist pump, you run around your house being like, Tom liked this.
Yeah.
But it's a crash course. It's an incredible working with him and with him at the reins of the X Office. And then obviously, you have Gail and Jed, who kind of as our two tent poles along with Eve. They got kind of first pick, right? They were like, these are all the ones we want. And then you kind of the rest of us are like this, and then luckily we're over here on NYX, and the characters that we're most interested in, for better or for worse, are not really the super heavy hitters of the X line.
Yeah.
We are really interested in the young people who've been burned by the X universe. We're kind of interested in the outcasts and the people who've been kind of having to play support in a lot of ways. And letting them be uplifted and having a time to shine. So we did not have to fight too much to get any of our characters, which was great.
No, we've talked a lot about that book being the it's the X-Men book that's not an X-Men book. Like I think the solicit for issue 1 starts, this is not a book about X-Men, right? Like our book is a book about mutants. It's a book about mutant culture. So you say like, oh, the whole X-Men line's on a fresh reboot right now, and you can jump in at any point. That's very true. Our book is enhanced by a knowledge of Krakoa, more than probably the rest of the line, because our book is pretty specifically about how you take mutant culture, which developed on Krakoa in a way that it had never developed before. It has a language, it has holidays, it has rules, it has a religion, it has it has a homeland, it has political concepts, it has all kinds of things now. And all of those things now are to the 5 wins. 4 wins, however many wins there are. It's out there now. Who's going to pick it up? Who's going to catch it? Who's going to keep it going? What is it like for community? So that's what our book is about. And as a result, it really meant that like the memory of Krakoa is the main character, kind of. And what our characters are doing with that, and how they're reassembling it, and how they're rebuilding that statue, what that thing is. That's going to be the that's sort of the ongoing arc of NYX, and thus each issue gets to be a deep dive into a different character. Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel in issue 1, Laura Kinney, Wolverine in issue 2, Knoll in issue 3, Prodigy in issue 4, Sophie Cuckoo in issue 5, and then on and on and on. We're not going to be like looping characters. Like there will be like Kamala 2 someday, but for now we're going to keep expanding that cast. Issue 6 is a new character. Issue 7 is a new character. Issue 8 is a character who's already in the book but hasn't had a perspective yet. And we're going to be continuing that frame throughout the run on NYX because it's designed to be a catch-all for the characters who maybe don't get put in books a lot or don't get attention or had a lot of attention in Krakoa and are now being sidelined because they have been in the spotlight for a very long time, and it's time for some new people to be in the spotlight.
And of course, with the exception of Kamala Khan, who has been getting that spotlight, but who, as the newest mutant, really hasn't had that mutantdom explored. And that's really kind of like as our center point, as the center of our hurricane, if you will. We're really hoping that fans of Kamala will be showing up and kind of seeing how she integrates and how she develops within this new community. Obviously, as new slings and arrows are thrown their way.
And do you like it kind of, because a lot of times the X books are all kind of crashing into each other. Like right now, everyone's off in their own little pockets. You can kind of just like concentrate on your cast. You don't have to worry about like Wolverine or like Gambit or someone crashing in at any moment.
Yeah, kind of.
Right now, everybody's kind of doing their own thing. Pretty soon, stuff is going to start crashing.
Oh,
and it's going to be freaking rad.
Yeah.
Nice.
No, all we can say about that.
Yeah.
But I do think that there is one thing we can say that I think is probably very much to that point is that we are all coordinating.
Yes.
So like we have a Discord server just for the X writers and artists. We discuss, we read each other's books. I just read Declan Shalvey's Mystique. It is so good.
Super rad.
It's so good. It's like A+ spy fiction. It's like Queen and Country, but with X-Men. It's badass, man. It's great. Yeah. What each person on this line is doing is we're all trying to carve a different flavor out. And if you're reading our book, you might really like Extraordinary X-Men. And you might really like aspects of X Factor, maybe. And you might even really like Uncanny, right? Everybody likes Uncanny.
Yeah, Uncanny just is great.
Everybody loves Uncanny. But it doesn't mean that those books are going to be crossing over plots all the time. It just means that thematically, they're talking about similar things in various ways. Our book echoes Exceptional, for instance. Exceptional is a book about Kitty Pryde mourning Krakoa, but meeting 3 mutant characters, young mutants, who don't know Krakoa, who weren't there, who have no experience being that, whose only experience being a mutant is like extremely recent, and who live in human society. Our book is about all of these characters who only know human society as a place of where they're unwelcome because they've been on Krakoa, now coming back and having to reintegrate into that society. So of course there are things that our characters have to teach the characters in Exceptional, and that the characters in Exceptional have to teach us. But that doesn't necessarily mean that Axo is going to be finding his way over to our book, or that Kamala Khan's going to be running off to Chicago. It just means that if you as a reader are reading both of these books, you will see how mutant culture and how different characters are reacting to the day-by-day process of coming back. And it's that kind of thread, rather than like a thread where it's like, you have to read the whole line. Like, ideally, you are reading the whole line. But like, if you only have $10 a month to spend on comics, you're going to find, ideally, 1 or 2 comics in that X line that's going to really do it for you. That's going to be your kind of book. And then that's like, again, the genius of what Tom is building.
And that Discord server also allows us to do stuff like you're going to meet David Elaine Prodigy's ringtone is a Dazzler track, right?
Oh.
We know that because Jason Liu shared his Dazzler tracks with us way back, so we were able to kind of incorporate that kind of stuff. So
because Jason's writing like full lyrics for all of Dazzler.
Oh wow, nice.
Yeah,
that are included in the books.
And like Gail's Midnight M that she developed.
Yeah.
Like there's like there's that kind of, basically it's all about creating a cogent, thematic, connected world and letting each of those stories exist in their own pockets before you start smashing all the toys together. Because let's be real, we're all comics fans. We want the toys to be smashed together.
Oh, that's the X-Men. Yeah, everybody's gonna. Yeah.
Right? But right now, they're in their pockets. They're doing their thing. They're developing their own voices. And I'm positive that any X fan, new or lapsed, can come back in and find that book right now that's absolutely popping, and it's going to be the thing they fall in love with.
And to NYX specifically, something that I think is cool is that we are sharing a character now with a solo series. Erica Schultz has Laura Kinney the Wolverine.
Oh yes,
that's going to be popping off out of her. Which, I mean, the first few pages are quite literally NYX pages. Like they're like, there are characters. They're in New York. It's Kamala and Sophie and Laura, and like you're going to get a flavor of NYX out of Laura Kinney Wolverine. So say you're not reading NYX and you pick up Laura Kinney Wolverine and you get the first 5 pages that shows you a little bit of context on NYX, and you're like, oh, I didn't know that was her situation. I should probably go check out that book. Great. By second issue, you're going to get a whole Laura Kinney deep dive that's going to give you a prequel to that solo series that you're seeing over there from Erica, right? So, and that's a great space where Erica can just be like, hey, is this available? And we can be like, oh, we're doing X, so maybe do Y. Or she can say, hey, can I do Y? And we say, that's incredible. We'll set you up with X. Like, it's a great continuum right now where we all get to kind of feed each other and do interesting stories, hopefully.
Yes, and in a few days for the next episode, I'm going to be talking to Mark about X Factor. So.
Oh, right on.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm very excited about the book.
X Factor kicks ass.
Oh yeah, I read the first one. I think the second one comes out this week. Yeah.
I'm psyched for people to see the long game on that one.
Oh.
I think there's a real same way that you encounter with Paul sometimes. There's a reaction from the fan base that comes down to like, I killed them all in that first issue, right?
How dare!
How dare! Oh, R.I.P. Fire Fist. But Mark has a plan. And that plan is cool.
Yeah, trust the master. Right? Like
he doesn't set out without a plan. His work is meticulously thought through. So when you get through the plan, you'll see the whole. And until then, it's really ideally a vibe is to enjoy that ride because you know you are going to land somewhere thoughtful, interesting, political, and not some. It's not some like big shock value killathon book. Like that's not what he's doing. Yeah. But he is making a comment on shock value killathon books in order to make a larger book.
But as we all know, comics fan, notoriously patient comics fans.
Definitely look, I've been them too. We should no shame.
Yeah,
I get it.
I know.
I mean, it's kind of a compliment. People are enjoying your story, and it's like, well, I want to see where it's going already.
Exactly. Well, it's like everybody who's already asking us for a Hellion issue of NYX, and I'm like, just wait, please.
Only 2 issues out, guys.
Yeah, there's only 2 issues. Please. You gotta just give us some time. Like we're writing through issue 10 right now. Just like give us a minute. And by a minute, I mean 10 months.
But I mean, there was so much stuff since we've talked last time. I mean, I know they're already over, but the collections are probably out there. I mean, like your Guardians of the Galaxy, Captain America, which again, Bucky kind of jumped over to Thunderbolts, which again was great. So
thank you. We're not done with him.
Oh, yes.
That's all I can say about that. But we're not done with Bucky. He's our favorite character in insofar as we've been able. Kamala is my favorite character in the Marvel Universe, but Bucky has become, I think, like favorite nation status for us as writers because he's just been with us since the beginning. Yeah. He's like just
one day we'll have a super weird collection. There'll be a bunch of different books, but it'll be like the 15 trade Bucky Barnes saga. Yeah. It's just gonna be we've been running this guy for 25 years.
He was in Devil's Reign, and then he was in Sentinel of Liberty, and then he was in his own little special, and then he was in Cold War, and then he was in Thunderbolts. And then he's in What's Coming Next, and like we're just always playing with this guy and his cat because we love them and we relate to them a lot.
I mean, I was ready for him to fly in and solve Grootfall. That's why.
Trust me when I tell you we thought about it.
I know. I can tell you. Because
one of my favorite Bucky Barnes runs ever. Like maybe my favorite Bucky Barnes story, and I get a lot of shit for this from fans, but they know I'm honest about it, is the Alesh Cott, Marco Rudy Winter Soldier run, where he goes to space and spends, I think, 10 issues basically meditating on an alien planet. Like, he doesn't do much. But like, I think the beautiful thing about that book is that it's such a great examination of what Bucky's like when he doesn't have to do his like earthbound stuff and he finds a real peace in space. So when we were thinking like, look, if Guardians goes long enough, like we always had
who knows who could guard the galaxy.
Yeah, we always had a plan for like if Guardians just goes for its initial run, we know how we're going to start and end it, which is exactly what we did. But we were like, if the book is some kind of like runaway hit and we have to make more, it wasn't, but that's okay. But like, had it been, I think that would have been a really interesting thing for us to say, like, well, Bucky can always go to space. He knows people in space. Are we like, let's bring back Ventolin.
Can't you see Bucky Barnes and Peter Quill sharing a spaceship, man? Like, those two would hate each other.
Yeah, that does seem like a
so good.
Though they're both real messy.
I mean, it makes sense. I mean, just with his convoluted history, I mean, it's built into the character. He's trying to find himself. Who says you can't go to space to try to find yourself?
Exactly.
Ooh, and Nebula would be so all about his shit.
Oh, yeah.
This makes sense, and I like it.
Did she steal his arm in the Guardians holiday special?
She does steal his arm in the Guardians holiday special.
Yeah, I feel like we would.
So,
I was going to say Infinity War, Rocket kind of said he was going to get that arm.
Yeah, he did, and he got that arm. Cannon.
But yeah, fans out there, they can pick up the 2 volumes of our Guardians of the Galaxy run, Group Fall and Group Rise. It's a full 11 issue. We like to think of it as a maxi series.
Yeah.
It's kind of unlike anything else in the Guardians canon. But if you are very into Unforgiven as a Western or that kind of tragic sense of frontiers when it comes to your Western, if you like that sad harmonica music, when it comes to your Old West, Guardians of the Galaxy, Group Rise, Group Fall, we're going to break your hearts and we're going to put it back together.
Yeah. I really hope someday we get a just straight 11-issue collection of that book. I think that's feasible. They do that enough in Marvel.
I mean, they do omnibuses that are bigger than that. Yeah,
exactly. So maybe we'll grab one of those someday, because I think in trades it's really nice, but it is actually designed as 5 issues, a 6-issue midpoint, and then 5 issues. Like, that's really what it was designed to do. And right now it's 5 issues and then a 6-issue trade.
Super tragic cliffhanger.
Yeah.
And then 6 issues.
Yeah, the end of volume 5, you could be forgiven for thinking it's the end of all Guardians of the Galaxy books. It's a weird cliffhanger. Anyway, yeah, we had a lot of fun on that book. It was a joy. And God, working with Kev Walker, like, what a genius.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
What a genius. Like, you can give him anything. I think by the end of it, he wanted to murder us because we were making him draw too many trees.
Yeah. He's the only person. He's the only person we've ever worked with who would come back with like full essays in notes on our scripts.
Yeah, gave us page by page notes on our scripts.
Most times, the artists are like, "Cool," and then they either do it or they don't do it. Kev would be like, "I'm not doing this. Here's why." And you go, "Well, fuck, man. Yeah,
that's the thing. And if you can make a counter argument, he'll take it.
Yeah.
So if he's like, I don't understand this beat, so I don't want to do it. And then he'll be like, well, Kev, here's what we mean by it. Here's the thematics, and here's what we're doing. And like, does that work? He'll be like, oh, okay. Well, then you shouldn't execute it that way. You should do it this way. And it's like, yeah, dude, agreed. Go.
You're great.
Yeah. Like, he's a master.
Incredibly collaborative. But it's fun to work with someone who loves the sound of their own voice as much as we do.
I'd work with him again in a heartbeat.
In a
heartbeat. It was a joy.
Yeah.
If you ever said anything else out in space, Guardians of the Galaxy, or if Bucky gets out there, can I just throw this suggestion out? Quasar.
Yeah.
Quasar.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
He was in Al's run. Come on.
Yeah. He's in Guardians 11.
Yes.
He's in the last issue.
We need more.
Got a little Quasar.
Little bit. Yeah. Need
more.
Bit
of Quasar. Yeah.
Love him. Love the character.
Yeah. That was the truth about a lot of that. Is like, we love a lot of those characters. It was just and I know that like a lot of the fans got really mad at us that we like killed off all the Guardians for 10 issues. But like, it had to go that way.
That was a mandate.
There wasn't, it's not like there was like a lot of option there. the team had to look something like the team from the movie, because that's how this stuff synergizes. It just is, unfortunately, but it is. And then on the flip side of that, we were doing a book about loss and the things you lose. And we knew that was true because we were writing about something we were dealing with at the time. So it was only right that the book be about a stripped back version of the group that had lost everything. And so then it really was a question of like, okay, well, do you center Quasar in that story? Do you center Phyla-Vell in that story? Do you center Moondragon in that story? Probably not. And that's largely because those characters are so powerful. If you put them and Prince of Power and like Hercules on this team, they don't feel like put upon Western characters.
Scrappy.
They're not gonna feel scrappy. They're gonna feel like the superheroes of space. And the whole point of our book had to be, these are the last Guardians on the last scrappy ass ship, trying their very best to do something with their last time on Earth. Like, what can they make happen with that? And so with that, it really did mean going back to the OG team, going back to that Admit Lanning DNA, and then turning that into something that inherently is going to be influenced by what Gunn did, but not doing Gunn's versions or doing Gunn's tone, but just taking, I think, aspects of his Nebula that I thought I just think he did such a wonderful job with that character, and really bringing that to life. So I would love to go back to Cosmos someday. Someday Cosmic would be a blast, because we didn't really get to do Cosmic. We got to do like a Western in Cosmic.
Yeah.
But doing like full Cosmic, I think the first time anybody's going to see us do that will be next year. And that's all I can say about that.
Oh yeah, I was like, what's he talking about? Oh yeah, dude. Oh yeah, buds. We are cooking something up next year at Marvel that is easily the most fun thing we've ever written.
It's really fun.
Freaking
wow.
Yeah.
It is completely unlike anything we've done with them. And it is,
it's like closest maybe to Kang, but it's like not at
like
all like Kang.
Our Thor annual.
Our Thor annual maybe. But
it's like
big,
heavily
epic cosmic story. It's gonna be really cool.
I'll just say I love Dragon Ball Z growing up. I think there's an incredible wealth of like fight anime out there that's just really big and awesome, and violence is never the answer.
But when Akira Toriyama does it, it does look really, really cool.
So it's going to be a total blast, and we're really excited. But then we can't say anything more.
Yeah, I can't say anything else about that. Yeah, we got a lot of Marvel stuff that hasn't been announced.
Yes, we do.
You heard it here first, kids. Collin said Marvel is getting Dragon Ball Z. You heard it here first.
There you go. Yeah, breaking it. Oh, Marvel's DBZ. Dream.
All right, before I let you guys go, is there anything else you want to promote? Anything you're working on? Because I know every comic creator is working on 15 things at the moment.
That's how we do.
Yeah, I mean, we're working on a lot of stuff. A lot of it's not announced. A lot of it is on the shelves. But the thing I think that we really want to be pointing people towards right now is our creator-owned book, The Principles of Necromancy. The trade is being solicited now. You can tell your local shop that you want it, because you do want it. For those folks who don't know, this is a 4-issue volume alongside a brand new comic artist, Eamon Winkle, who was just nominated for the Russ Manning Award, which is the Best Newcomer Award.
For his work on this book.
This is a dark story from us. And it is the tale of a fantasy world without any magic, where doctors are considered the wizards. Do not make eye contact with them, lest they destroy you. We are following the youngest of all of them, Dr. Jacob Eyes, who is here not just to cure sickness, but to cure death itself.
Ooh.
It's a story about human tragedy. It's a story about human hubris. It's a story about a sort of Frankenstein character, right? But the trip of the book is that, like NYX, every issue we're really big fans of single issue comics, in case you can't tell from like Outsiders and NYX. We really love modular storytelling like that. This book is very much like that. It's every single issue is going to take you to a different perspective that is observing Dr. Eyes from the outside. So you're always going to see Dr. Eyes from the perspective of, say, a Conan the Barbarian style warrior who he meets who becomes a test subject of his, or a young girl who he meets who becomes his protege, or his mentor back at the city hospital who has very complicated feelings about what his protege is doing. Each of our issues is always from the outside. That's why we call him Dr. Eyes, because he is a character who has quite literally replaced his eyes with lenses that fit inside his surgical mask. And when he when he looks at you, you can't see what he's thinking. Eyes are the windows to the soul, and Dr. Eyes has removed that window. His soul has no windows. And so the reader is invited to figure out, is this guy a good guy? Is he a bad guy? Is he a monster? Is he a hero? Is he a martyr? Is he a villain? What is he? Who is this guy really underneath all of the mythos? And by the end of the first 4 issues, and they are only the first 4 issues, you'll be getting new stories in that world very soon. With Eamon, and we're just getting started. The cool thing about the way that Principles functions moment to moment is that we're building the world, we're building characters, and we're building a plot, but we're really also just building your perception of Dr. Eyes. And then at the end of the first 4, the reader is being invited to ask themselves, what did you just read? Is that the story of a hero? Is it a tragedy? Is it uplifting? Is it depressing? Is it scary? Is it funny? What was that? And ideally, every reader gets to come away with something a little bit different. It's designed to be a bit of a Rorschach test for readers. And obviously, Eamon kind of makes that work brilliantly because he is simultaneously, Collin likes to say he puts the gore in gorgeous. And I think that's effectively correct. He is doing really beautiful work that is also extremely appalling. And the way that those two things sit together is really cool. So Principles of Necromancy trade paperback is out in stores for pre-order right now. So if you go to your local shop, call your local shop, say, please pre-order Principles of Necromancy for me. It's at Magma Comics. They're a new comics publisher. It'll be their first trade out. So this is a great chance to support independent comics, to support new comics creators, to support a brand new artist, support a new company that's making a lot of really exciting stuff. Not just us, right? Scale Trade from Steve Orlando and Silicon Bandits and Derek Robertson's book that he's writing, which is awesome. Greaser, like all kinds of cool stuff is coming out of that space, and you can support it there. And if that sounds cool and you want something different but still kind of similar, like cool new artist, horror vibes, but in a much more like gaming-y kind of fairy tale context, we have a book called Wolf out from Vault now as well. That's a single trade that was never in single issues. That's just a graphic novel. It's a great present, especially for anybody who doesn't really read comics and wants something that's more of like a folk tale or a fairy tale. If you have a friend who's a big fan of like A24 horror movies or whatever, like, big fan of The Witch, this is or Game of Thrones, like Wolf is a really great like feminist werewolf take that was all generated by this artist Dalen Ogden, who is just an incredible artist. And we really came in mostly as the sort of like writer support system for making sure that they could tell this story. So it's a really incredible thing and worth a check out.
Support Big Two Comics, but more importantly, support independent comics.
Please
support creator-owned work just as much as you support those capes.
Oh my gosh!
Support the Lunatics.
Oh my gosh! And if you're reading Star Trek or you're not reading Star Trek and you like Star Trek and you're interested in Star Trek, we did just announce the next big Star Trek crossover ongoing event. It's called Lore War. It's coming next year. It's Secret Wars for Star Trek. Come on in. It's gonna rip. It's gonna be awesome. We've seen the layouts for the whole first issue, and it is like, truthfully, I think it's going to be one of the coolest Star Trek books ever made. I think as a fan, I would be freaking out.
David Lynch's Star Trek.
Yeah, David Lynch's Star Trek.
Wow.
This thing's going to be really weird in a way that I think is going to be really exciting, both for fans and for just like comics readers in general. That's us and Christopher Cantwell from Halt and Catch Fire and Doctor Doom and lots of stuff. Iron Man. We're doing that one together. It's all co-plotted and co-written by us, and all drawn by a relatively new artist named David Tinto. David Tinto is Unbelievable.
He's gonna hit the scene like a meteor.
Unbelievable.
His work is incredible.
Yeah. So really can't wait for people to see what's going on with Lore War. That's coming next year, but you can support it by telling your local shop.
Oh wow. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Go pick up everything we talked about tonight. Yes. Jackson and Collin, they write books about friendship. They write about books that make you think, but not cerebral.
We write books that make you think for dummies.
Yeah. Thinking books for dummies, the Hive Mind story.
Thinking for dummies. Yeah, a lot of people could use that. All right. Thank you, gentlemen. It's always a great time talking to you.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you, Phil. Appreciate it.
Thank you.